Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Wa salamu taslima. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In today's lesson, we are going to discuss some of the rules of how to purify najis things. And then we are going to begin our discussion on the mutaharat or the mutahirat or the purifying agents. So we are going to first discuss some of the rules here, like I mentioned. So first is how to make najis object pure. So if a clean thing, a tahir thing, touches a najis thing, and if either or both of them are so wet that the wetness of one reaches the other. So the criteria here is there is enough wetness on either or both of the objects, and it reaches the other, so it transfers the wetness. Then the clean thing will become najis. The clean thing will become najis. Like, let's say that someone had blood on their hand, which was wet. Or somebody has touched a spot of najis water on the floor, which was put on blood, and they touched that najis water, and now their hand is wet, and they touch their pants. Then their pants become najis. Similarly, if the wetness of the thing which has become najis touches a third thing, that third thing will also become najis. So we have najis like this. We have najis object 1 transfers to object 2 and transfers by touching to object 3. So it's 1, najis 1, over cross touches to 2, 2 becomes najis, and 2 touches over to the third object, and that becomes najis. Now it is commonly held by the scholars that a thing which has become najis transmits its najasat, but an indefinite number of transmissions is impossible, is not probable. In fact, after a certain stage, they say it is clean. For example, if the right hand of a person becomes najis with urine, and then, while still wet, it touches his left hand, the left hand will also become najis. Now, if the left hand, after having dried up, touches a wet cloth, that cloth will also become najis. But if that cloth touches another wet thing, it cannot be said to be najis. So, when we come to the fourth contact point, or the fourth point of najasat, it does not become najis. So 3 here, 3 does not transfer. So this is if the wetness is so if the wetness is so little that it does not affect the other thing, then the clean thing will not become najis. So if the wetness is so little that it does not affect the other thing, then the clean thing will not become najis, even if it had contacted najisul ain, the essential najasats that we talked about in our last lesson. So we have this rule of 3 points, 3 najis, and the 4th one does not become najis from the 3rd. So say we had a cloth with urine on it, and we had a cloth with urine on it, it fell on the floor. It was wet enough to transfer, and the floor became najis. That's number 2, is the floor. And then somebody was walking with their shoe, and the shoe was a little wet on the bottom, and the bottom of the shoe stepped on it. That shoe will become najis. But wherever the footsteps after that go will not become najis. They will be pure. They will be safe. So when you have some contact between najasat, you must sit here and think, how many times has it touched the object? Now, object 1 may make several things najis, or object 2 may make several things najis. But the 3rd contact from any of these will not transfer to a 4th. So the 4th contact will be tahir. Okay. Now, let's imagine a fly or an insect sits on a wet najis thing, and later sits on a wet thing again, a clean thing. The clean thing will become najis if one is sure that the insect was carrying najasat with it. If one is not sure, then it remains clean. So if you don't know that the fly has landed in urine, that exact fly, you cannot say that it has transferred najasat. You cannot act on doubt. You must have a certain knowledge or a probable knowledge. And when some syrup or ghee is in a fluid state, in a manner that if some quantity of it is removed, let's say we have some syrup here. Let's imagine we have syrup. Now, if a quantity of it was removed from part of it, and it does not leave an empty trace, the entire quantity will become najis. So if it reconnects, fastly, then it will make the other quantity najis if the najis falls into it. Immediately, even when the slightest part becomes najis. But if it is solidified And when some part of it is removed, the trace of emptiness is seen. So like if I have honey here, and I remove part of the honey, and when I do that, it does not come back together very easy, and you could see that there's a trace of emptiness in it. Then this does not become najis. Honey is usually soft and wet and liquidy, but if it's too hard, if it causes this kind of, or syrup, if it causes this kind of emptiness. So not saying honey per se, because honey, depending on the temperature, may be very liquidy or may be very hard. Then only the part will be najis which has come into contact with the najasat. So say najasat happened here. Let's put some blood here. Then only this part, or this part, will be najis. This little part inside the circle. Even if the empty traces gets filled up later. So even after a little, if after a little these empty traces get filled up. So if the droppings of a rat fall on it, only that part will become najis on which the droppings have fallen, and the rest will become pure. So then we have to make the script or pages of the Holy Quran najis and violate its sanctity is undoubtedly haram. So to purposely stick najis on the Quran is haram. And if it becomes najis, it should be made clean immediately with water. In fact, as obligatory caution, obligatory precaution, itiyat al-wujub, it is haram to make it najis even if no violation of sanctity is intended, even without the intention of violating the sanctity. And it is obligatory that it should be made clean, washing it with water. If the covers of the Holy Quran become najis, causing its desecration, the cover should be made clean with water. Placing the Quran on a najis al-ain, like blood or a dead body, even if it be dry, is haram, if the intention is to profane it. Writing the Quran with najis ink, even one letter of it, amounts to making it najis, and if written, it should be erased and washed off. It is haram, if a page from the Holy Quran and any sacred object like paper on which the names of the Almighty Allah, the Holy Prophet, the Holy Imams are written falls in the lavatory, the bathroom, it is obligatory to take it out and make it clean with water, no matter what expenses it may entail. So if it falls into the najis, and if it is not possible to take it out, the use of that laboratory should be discontinued till such a time when one is certain that the pages has dissolved and petered out. So this is like if in some of the old toilets they would dig a hole in the ground, and imagine if somebody had a dua with some Quran on it, or maybe some hadith he had on paper, and it fell down in there. If you cannot remove it, you cannot, even with high expenses, then you cannot use that toilet until you know for sure it is gone. Similarly, if the Turbatul Hussein, the sacred earth of Karbala, usually formed into a tablet to place one's forehead on while offering prayers, falls into the toilet, falls into the lavatory, and it is not possible to take it out, the lavatory should not be used until one becomes sure that it has ceased to exist and no trace of it is present there. It is haram to eat or drink or make others eat or drink something which has become najis. It is haram to eat or drink najis, and it is haram to make others eat or drink najis. However, one may give such a thing to a child or an insane person, and if a child or an insane person eats or drinks the najis thing on his own accord, or makes food najis with his najis hands before consuming it, it is not necessary to stop him from doing so. This is what Ayatollah Sistani says this part. Check with your marja on anything that seems like you need to know the details, because they agree on common things, but we need to check and make sure on some things with see what other marjas say, because some other marja may say by precaution it's better not to do this. I don't know, but you have to look into and ask the marja. So to sell or lend najis things which can be made pure has no objection, but the buyer or the borrower must be told about it. If a person sees someone eating something or drinking something najis or pray with najis dress, it is not necessary to admonish him. If a place or a carpet of a man's house is najis, and if he sees that the wet body or dress of his visitor will touch the najis thing, since he who is responsible, therefore he should inform the visitor, provided the two situations mentioned in the rule. If the host of a dinner comes to know during the meals that the food is najis, he should inform the guest about it. But if one of the guests becomes aware of it, it is not necessary for him to inform others about it. However, if his dealings with the other guest are such that he himself may become najis or be involved in najasat, if they become najis, he should inform them. So if somebody borrows an object and it becomes najis, the borrower must inform the owner, provided that the situation mentioned in the rules is observed. Now, if a child says that a thing is najis, if a child comes and says something is najis, or that he has washed it and made it clean, his word should not be accepted. But if he is about to attain the age of bulugh and assures that he has washed it and made it pure, his word should be accepted if the thing is normally in his charge and if he is reliable. So these were some of the rules for making things tahir, and there's more rules on this, which we'll inshallah discuss a little bit more. In our next lesson, we're going to discuss the mutahirat, the purifying agents, which are water, earth, sun, istihala, chemical change, inkilab, change in properties, intikal, change in place, zawalul aini, najasa, disappearance of the najasat, istabra, which means quarantining, Islam, tabia, to follow, and ghaibatul Muslim, the disappearance of a Muslim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.